Resident Chicken Zero.
Still not a smooth transition. Don't watch that. Okay. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. We'll fix that in post, as we often do. I'm not good at this live shit. I used to just make the opening on the other computer ahead of time, but then I was just fucking... My workload was just making openings to something that, 5 people are going to watch. Hello everybody, I'm Andrew. This is Resident Chicken Zero. We got some fun things that we're going to talk about tonight. David's not going to be on for a little bit. We talked about 10, so David should be on. So at 10, the actual show will start. But I thought I would jump on here and talk about a movie my wife and I went and watched today. How should I do this? Boom. 28 years later. That'll work. Okay, so let's talk about this. Here's the problem. I don't have any complaints. I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, just so we're clear. With that said, I am going to say some things. I strongly recommend, if you're a fan of 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, you consider going into this movie with an open mind. It's its own thing, for sure. And I've heard other people say that. I'm a big... 28 Days Later is a movie that I saw at an influential enough age to where I was like... That was one of the big movies when I was a kid that made me want to make movies. 28 Days Later was a huge movie. It's a really well-made movie, but it made filmmaking seem accessible. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie at all. It was very good. Danny Boyle, director of Trainspotting, which is also another great movie that I saw later on in life, and Slumdog Millionaire, which is also great. He did 28 Weeks... Well, no, Danny Boyle did not direct 28 Weeks Later, right? I'm pretty sure he didn't. But 28 Weeks Later came out a few years... Let's see. 28 Days Later came out in 2003. 28 Weeks Later came out in 2007, because I had just gotten back from the Middle East. I think I've told this story before. And 28 Weeks Later is fucking great, too. They're both really good movies. I already forgot. Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. What else has Homeboy directed? Let's see. He's a Spanish film director. He directed 28 Weeks Later. I guess that was his biggest movie. Anyways, okay. So, it's been a while. It's been almost 20 years since we had a movie from and it was 2 really, really good movies. 28 Weeks Later is, I would say, even more intense than 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later, though, when that came out, all we had gotten up to that... as a kid, I loved zombie movies, but I would go back and watch the old stuff, right? The George Romero stuff and the classics from all... I mean, there's a huge run of European zombie films in the 80s. That was great. But when the 90s rolled around, Dead Alive was kind of like the end of that. Peter Jackson's Dead Alive kind of ended the genre. Tom Savini did his remake of Night of the Living Dead. And I think that it was even 1989. I believe it came out in 91, but I think there's a line at the end of the movie where you realize, oh, it's not taking place in the 60s. It takes place... He says 1989 on the radio broadcast at the end of the movie. But there wasn't a lot of good zombie movies until Anderson's Resident Evil, his take on Resident Evil in 2001. So I think Resident Evil kind of paved the way for 28 Days Later, but 28 Days Later is... I like the original Resident Evil. It's not a good representation of the video game series that I love and named my show after, but it's still a fun zombie movie. I would say 28 Days Later took Resident Evil and, did it. The cool thing about 20 Days Later and all the zombie movies that flooded the market after is 28 Days Later kind of paved the way for a new type of zombie, right? His Danny Boyle's zombies in that movie were heavily imitated. And I think it's so fucking funny when people, when horror movie people, and I've had this argument a lot as an adult because I love that movie, they go, oh, it's not a real zombie movie. And it's like, well, fucking zombies aren't like zombies. Like, the original term zombie comes from, Haiti. And so George Romero's zombies are based off of, it's a subgenre of vampires. It comes from I Am Legend. Night of the Living Dead was based off of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, right? So if you're gonna fucking make a zombie movie, you can go crazy. You can change things. You don't have to imitate George Romero. And I would say in the early 2000s, people were heavily imitating Danny Boyle. If you notice, after 28 Days Later came out, we got Shaun of the Dead the following year, which those were Romero zombies. And they're doing a parody, so that's good, right? They did their own thing. It was very funny. Hilarious movie made by Edgar Wright. And then in 2004, we got Shaun of the Dead in 2004, and I think Dawn of the Dead came out in 2004 as well, at the end of 2004. Those are fucking Danny Boyle zombies. It's a George Romero remake, and it's a George Romero setup with Danny Boyle zombies. Like, they're fast, they're mean, they make that weird sick noise that comes from 28 Days Later, right? So now Danny Boyle's not the first one to have running zombies, and I realize that they're not like the gut munching zombies. They're gonna spit blood in your face and shit, but they're highly contagious. That goes back to Dawn of the Dead introduced the idea of it being like a contagious thing. Night of the Living Dead, if you die, you just come back as a zombie, right? Dawn of the Dead, the dude gets bit. Dawn of the Dead is probably like the most imitated out of zombie films. It's a great fucking movie, right? So Danny Boyle contributed to this genre pretty effectively. Like, that is a good fucking horror movie. It's scary. He made zombies scary again. Because I love Tom Savini, but the remake of Night of the Living Dead, the zombies, they're scary, but they're not really that scary. I love that movie. It's a good movie, but the zombies are not scary in it. Great effects and everything, but they're slow and dumb. Danny Boyle changed it up a little bit, right? Resident Evil had the fucking music video shit going on in it, and 28 Days Later has some of that. My only complaint about 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later is there's some annoying like effects used. It's that early 2000s, like I don't even know what it's called. I used to know what it was called. It's when it like stutters and like it's slow. I don't like that shit, but it's still an eerie fucking movie. I would say 28 Weeks Later wasn't. It's intense and it's super violent and it's a cool zombie flick, but I'd say 28 Days Later was more effective as far as being scary. Okay, the movie I watched today. Sorry, giving you a little background though. 28 Days Later is a zombie movie. It's a great zombie movie, and a lot of people do like it. So we've waited a while to get a sequel, right? It's been 23 years since the original came out, and almost 18 years since the first sequel. So I went into this movie just like, cool, this is gonna be fun. Past this point, I might be spoiling stuff, so if you haven't seen this yet and you don't want the movie spoiled, give me a couple minutes. When you see this picture disappear right there, I'll be done spoiling shit, okay? Make sure David's not up here yet. Oh, he's eating. We're solid, guys. David's eating. No rush, David. If you're watching, no rush, buddy. I gotta spit this bullshit out. David is actually somebody who enjoyed 28 Days Later with me. He's one of the friends I instantly was like, I think David would dig this. Great soundtrack, wonderful movie. So my wife took me to watch this today for Father's Day because she knew I was really excited to see it, and I liked it a lot. I'm going to say right now that some people are not going to like this movie, for sure. Like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some people who did not like this movie. I guess I'll do my cons first. And they're not actual cons, because I did a little research. So, when we left the theater, I was kind of like, that was a very fucking jarring ending. Hopefully if you're watching this, you've seen it by now, okay? I'm going to go into shit, and I don't want to ruin this movie for anybody, because it is a good movie. The movie starts with these kids in a room watching Teletubbies, and you know shit's bad, right? they're watching Teletubbies, and one of the kids escapes this house. Monsters attack, kill a bunch of children and people in the house, and one of the kids escapes, and he runs into this church, and his dad is there praying, and his dad sacrifices himself to the zombies. He's like, "It's the end of the world, son, rejoice," or whatever, and so the kid hides. So he watches his dad commit suicide, basically, in front of him, like, and he's yelling, "Why have you forsaken me?" That guy's gone for the rest of the movie. It comes back, though. So the rest of the movie is really good. It had this, I mean, it's good, but it's like a fever dream. Like, they did a good job of making a spooky movie. So what's happened in the 28 years since the outbreak? Basically, in the original 28 Days Later, there's a virus. These people who are trying to release some monkeys from a test lab end up releasing the virus into England, and at the end of 28 Days Later, they're rescued. Cillian Murphy is rescued at the end of that movie. You find out that they've contained it. And 28 weeks later, they have the genius idea. Oh, it's been 28 weeks. We've cleared off the mainland. Let's start bringing people back. Certain events occur to where the virus comes back and kills everybody in this area that they're trying to re-invite humans to. Because these zombies in 28 Days Later, they need to eat and they need to drink and stuff. They're living still. They can be shot anywhere and they'll die, right? They're very aggressive and hard to take care of when there's a ton of them. And the contagion, like, the transfer of the virus is instantaneous. It's like 20 seconds, and if you get blood in your mouth or your eye, you're turning into a monster, right? That's why it spreads so fast. At the end of 28 weeks later, they kind of set it up for like a world, like a getting out finally from England. The beginning of this movie, they're like, the main continent of Europe was able to push it back. It's just quarantined to England still, okay? But there's people that live in this quarantine. There's little settlements of people, so there's still like groups of people who are stuck here. And after watching the movie, it's made clear that they cannot leave. They're stuck here. So there's this little island off of Wales, and there's a strip of land. I forgot what it was called. You can look it up. There's a strip of land that you can walk across when it's low tide, and you can get to the mainland. And there's a castle and a group of people there, and this little boy wakes up. He's 12, and his dad's gonna take him to the mainland, and he's gonna become a man. So it's like that cool like villager, like the town's gonna have a party for him when they bring him back. They're gonna teach him how to live in this world, basically. So his dad takes him out to get his first kill. So they go and the monsters in this movie they're scary. Like they managed to take something that was already pretty scary, and they've evolved over the last 3 decades, right? So they find these fat like zombies, these gluttonous zombies crawling around on the ground of a forest eating worms and stuff, and that's how they've been living all this time. And they're like mossy and gross. They're like sloths. I think they even call them sloths. They call them something creative. And so the kid kills one, and then they decide to go in a little further to investigate some things and just explore, and they end up meeting what you would call it Alpha, and it's these big fucking versions. Like, they've grown, they're very muscular and powerful, and they roar, and other infected listen to them, right? Because they're the Alpha. And so all the zombies in this movie are butt ass naked too. They're not wearing clothes anymore. They are animals living on the mainland who want to spit blood in your face and bite you and eat you and shit. Like, they've become more zombie than they were. I mean, they were zombies in the original, but they're extra. They've gone zombie now. So the dad and the son are fighting this Alpha. They survive. They get back to their little island. It's very dramatic. It's crazy. There's random shots of things. There's weird dreams that the kid has. There's like these red shots of like infected people with their eyes glowing, like eating a deer. It's really like surreal and cool. I think they did all that well. Like, it looks good. It really looked good. So they get back home, and the dad's like bragging about his son. The dad and the son, the mom of the family, she's sick. She's ranting and raving at the beginning of the movie, and she's sick. And so the son's at this party, he's worried about his mom, of course. They don't know what's wrong with her. There's not doctors that they could use in this world, right?
So the son and the dad are at the party, and the son sees his dad sneak off with there's some woman that was Google eyeing him before they left for their adventure, and the dad sneaks off. So the son knows his dad is cheating on his sick mom at home, and so the son goes home disappointed in his dad and upset. And there's an old guy at the house taking care of the wife while they're all out, for him to become a man. And so the old man tells the kid that the kid had seen a fire. They were hiding in a house from the alpha male, and the kid had seen a fire. And the old man ends up spilling the beans that that's actually a doctor that could potentially help his mom. So the kid's pissed at his dad because his dad's cheating on his sick mom, and the dad just showed him how to get to the mainland. So there's a little fight between the kid and his dad, and he calls his dad out and he's pissed, and so the kid lights something on fire so the gate guards leave, and he sneaks his sick mom and him. His mom is like confused and crazy, like she's sick, like dying sick. He sneaks his mom out to the mainland to go find this doctor, which is pretty fucking crazy. It's a good setup for a movie. Like you're like, oh, this is gonna be so bad. Like it was bad when things were controlled, and it's gonna be so much worse. What ends up happening, and I guess I don't need to tell you guys everything in the movie, but what ends up happening is the kid gets to this doctor. They meet a soldier. The alphas like to rip the heads off of things, so there's a picture. I didn't pick it for this review. There's a picture of somebody's head being held by a big muscular hand, and you can see the spinal column hanging from it. Yeah, these things like to pull heads off. So the mom and the son, they meet a soldier and he gets killed, and one of the infected gives birth to a baby who's not infected. It's in this particular movie, the baby is a normal baby. I don't know. You're left questioning things by the end. So the mom is taking care of the baby, the kid, and the mom. They find the doctor. He's an actual legit doctor, and he built this really cool graveyard, and that's what this tower thing right here is. It's all these dead people's heads. Here's where the movie gets really fucked up. The mom has cancer. She's going to die. It's metastasized. I don't know about cancer, but she's toast. So the doctor has a blowgun that he can calms down the alpha monster when it's chasing the boy and his mom. He blow darts this monster and it just stops and doesn't care. So he does that to the boy, and then he kills the boy's mom because the mom's like, "Yeah, just do it," And then when the boy wakes up from this being drugged, the doctor puts the mom's skull in front of him and goes, "Find a spot for this skull." So the boy climbs up this thing and puts the mom's skull on top, and it is the most twisted, fucked up thing I've ever seen. And that's kind of you're just watching this like, wow, this is fucked up. Oh, this is fucked up. They have this baby that an infected monster squirted out of herself, and the baby, what we're presuming is the baby's dad is chasing him now, and he's trying to kill the kid, and now his mom's dead. So we're at the end of the movie now, right? And it's like, wow, that was a crazy, weird movie, and this is how they're going to end it, right? So it looks like the kid's going back home, right, to go be back with his dad. No, he hangs the baby up on the gate with a note saying, "I want to be alone. I've figured out how to live in this world. I want to go walk and have some time to myself. Take care of this baby. She's infected. Be good to her. She looks like she's fine." So he leaves this sick baby, or he leaves this infected baby, the baby that doesn't appear to be infected, but these things have procreated, right? Probably not safe. Leaves the baby in the care of his father, and his father's all crying dramatically because his 12-year-old son's like, "Nah, I'm gonna keep fucking around in this world." And you're like, wow, that's the end, huh? So the kid's eating a fish. This is the last 5 minutes of the movie. Kid's cooking a fish, and infected start showing up. And he starts killing them. He's pretty effective at taking them out, but there's too many, and he gets stuck at rocks. I'm like, are they gonna kill this kid? Is this how they're gonna really fucking end this movie? And remember the kid at the beginning of the movie? Jimmy is his name. He finally shows up. Jimmy shows up. Jimmy has an upside down cross on because he probably isn't happy with what his dad did as a Christian. And these other characters show up, and he's like, "You want some help?" very like devil-like, right? And he's like, he waits for the kid to say, yeah, I would like some help. And so this guy has all these gangsters, and they're wearing tracksuits, and they're wearing different colored tracksuits, and they have blonde hair like Jimmy does. Jimmy has like a long blonde mullet, and these guys they're dressed like Teletubbies, kind of, right? Remember the beginning of the movie, the Teletubbies? And so there's a 5-minute scene of these like blonde mulleted like tracksuit Teletubby characters ripping apart zombies. They're like sawing zombies' heads off. There's like death metal music playing. It starts with like little kid music and it turns into death metal, and it's like, what the fuck? And so Jimmy jumps down and shakes the kid's hand, and then the movie ends. I was gonna just leave it at that. I wanted to do my review, and I didn't really want to have any outside sources like messing with how I felt about the movie, right? I had to look up it. I could have gone either way. They could have just ended it there and left me going, what the fuck was that? At the very end, the whole movie is very like serious toned, and like it's surreal and weird, but it's pretty serious and kind of like believable until those last 5 minutes. And it's like, were they setting this up for a sequel? Like, what are they gonna do? How are they gonna do are they gonna call it 28 Years Later too? I did look that up. Yes, there is a sequel coming out next year. It's called 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. And I'm assuming they'll go more into Jimmy and the kid Spike's relationship. I don't think Jimmy's good, though. It's going to be weird. It's already done. It's been filmed. So I haven't heard anything about this. I had no clue. I thought I was just going in to see, like, the final portion of the trilogy, like, 28 Days Later through 28 Years Later. No, this is the start of a separate trilogy. It is the third movie, but this trilogy is going to act as a third movie. I don't know, whatever. I'm excited to see what they do. They haven't filmed the third movie yet. It hasn't been greenlit. We'll see how this does. I'm actually happy. I was going to just leave it and do my review, but I'm happy that I have that knowledge, because it felt like the beginning to something, and a lot of stuff. I mean, I guess it could have just been a movie about a kid going to kill his mom. Seems like a lot of work. And the mom kind of had a feeling she had cancer, and she's like, I should have told you. And it's like, yeah, what do you mean? This kid just went to hell for you, and you fucking... So there's my review of 28 Years Later. I really enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it more with the knowledge that there's going to be a follow-up. But part of me is like, wow, if they had just ended the movie like that, it was just such a fuck you to the rest of the movie. It was so weird. You have to watch it. I don't know. It was very jarring at the end of that movie. It was like, are they going to kill his kid? That's kind of lame. Like, but no.
I can't answer that, because what I realized is the beginning of another trilogy. So they're going to they already filmed the second movie, and they're going to do a third movie. So I can't even, as of right now, no, but the overall product might be better than 28 Weeks Later, right? Is it better than 28 Days Later? I don't think so. But the problem with 28 Days Later is that came out when I was like 17. No, I was 16 when that came out, and I saw that. So I was more impressionable. So I think it'd be hard to... They did good, man. For a movie that came out for this much space between the first sequel and now, they did good. I was impressed. I want to spoil one more thing before I end my review, David. Earmuffs, baby boy. Cover them up. There's a lot of talk about Cillian Murphy was like the executive producer on this movie too. He was one of the main producers, and there's a lot of talk of him being in the film. I think I know where he is, but they did not show his face. And I want it to be recorded. I think he was the kid's grandfather. I think. Because there was a lot about her parents. There was a couple moments where she's talking about her dad. And I think that would be kind of a cool twist. I guess it wouldn't really be a twist. They showed hands on a little girl's shoulders when she's reminiscing, so I'm wondering if that might be him. And I think he's producing all this. So, anyways, yeah, I loved it. I actually liked it more than I was expecting to like it, to be honest. So, other than the last 5 minutes, will waits to be determined whether that was the fucking weirdest ending to a movie I've ever seen. Oh, it was up there, man. It was fucking weird.
It was cool. I liked it. I like chaotic endings. I like to leave people like, what the fuck? If somebody watched one of my movies and went, what the fuck, and I could audibly hear that, I'd be so satisfied. Real quick, so next morning, hello. I'm editing my review from last night. I wanted to conclude this all a little bit better. I got distracted because David and I were doing a different show. Um, the main thing I wanted to say about 28 Years Later was Danny Boyle managed to. Zombie movies have been done. Zombie movies were done when 28 Days Later came out, right? And Danny Boyle was able to take that and kind of breathe new life into it. Since 28 Days Later, over the last 20 something years, 22 years, zombie movies have been ran into the ground a second time. And what Danny Boyle was able to do, and I think George Romero attempted this with Land of the Dead, and I think he did okay, right? He made a story about humans adapting to the situation, and enough time has passed since the beginning of that situation to where there's a world that has been established. So Land of the Dead did this already. But with 28 Days Later, Danny Boyle managed to achieve a similar feat of creating a Land of the Dead. Like, he's created a world from the ramifications of what happened before, and we've moved on. It's a movie that takes place after the shit happened, and we don't always, excuse me, jeez, we don't always get that in movies, right? You have your situation, and then you assume people are either going to live happily ever after or they're not. This isn't, I wouldn't call this a happily ever after necessarily, but it is the start of like really like being able to kind of create an interesting situation and world from two movies that I already enjoyed at one point. So that's kind of how I wanted to sum this review up. It's the start of something, I guess, is what I was rambling towards to get to. It is the start of hopefully something good. It's hard to review something until I see the other two parts of it. And if I did not know that there was going to be two other parts, I would have been left like, well, that was very interesting. You know what I mean? Like, it did not sum anything up. I do not typically like when movies are a commercial for another movie. And I was left questioning whether they did not put anything on the screen. They did not advertise, unless it came at the end of the credits, but it said directed by Danny Boyle and the credits started rolling. There was nothing there to indicate that there would be a sequel. I'm just familiar with movies, so I kind of got that vibe. It was very subtle, right? So I don't feel like Danny Boyle's like trying to make it had a beginning, middle, and end to it, right? It's just the very end. It left a lot of stuff hanging, and I like when movies are typically contained within themselves and then you can have a sequel. I like those to be individual stories, right? The Godfather, Godfather 2, and then Godfather 3 they're all together, but Godfather 2 isn't a commercial for Godfather 3. You can just watch Godfather 2. A lot of people hate Godfather 3, right? So I think that's important. With all that said, he managed to create a really interesting new take on the zombie concept, which he already did with 20 Days Later, but he was able to continue that successfully, and I think it was really cool. And I'm excited. I will be going to the theater to watch the sequel for sure. So to sum all that up, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go take a shower because I smell bad. I'm still wearing the same shit that I was wearing last night when I did the beginning of my review. Yeah, thanks guys for watching. Goodbye.